Let's jump right into today's explainer, where we're looking at a pretty wild concept. Why your brain, yes, your incredibly powerful brain, actually cuts corners and filters out the noise just to keep you alive. Think about it. Your brain is taking in millions of bits of information every single second. But even with all that raw processing power, there's just no way it can digest every single stimulus you encounter without totally crashing. So, to get absolutely anything done, it relies on a system to decide what matters and, well, what doesn't. And as we're going to see today, relying on some really fascinating psychology, that filtering system means your brain isn't always giving you the objective truth. Actually, it's lying to you on purpose. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of how this works, ask yourself this. Have you ever wondered why you just naturally dwell on the negative? Or maybe why you get instantly defensive at work when someone gives you completely harmless feedback? Seriously, have you ever noticed how one tiny critical comment can just ruin your entire day, even if you got a dozen compliments right before it? Well, guess what? That isn't you being overly sensitive. It's not you being a pessimist. That is literally your brain functioning exactly as it was designed to. It is selectively choosing which version of reality to present to you. A great way to think about this is that we are all looking through invisible interpretive lenses. It's exactly like wearing a pair of physical glasses that alter how light hits your eyes, except you never even realize they're on your face. When you wear real glasses, you don't look at the lenses, right? You look through them to make sense of the world. Well, your brain operates the exact same way. These interpretive lenses help your brain rapidly scan a situation, flag what's important, and trigger whatever you're going to do next. But because their whole entire purpose is efficiency, they operate completely under the radar. They are totally invisible. We just forget they're even there. Okay, moving into section 1, the survival lens, the biological why behind negativity. This is where we start to understand the brain's absolute #1 priority, keeping you from getting pulverized by the world. Picture an ancient Homo sapiens out in the wild. For them, hyper-focusing on dangerous stimuli was a crucial feature, definitely not a bug. I mean, when the stakes are literal life and death, like a predator hiding in the bushes, or maybe a brightly colored but super poisonous fruit, you absolutely need a subconscious, lightning-quick way to spot threats. If you assumed a rustling bush was a hungry tiger, you survived. If you assumed it was just a gentle breeze, well, you might not. Fast forward to today, right? We're sitting in modern office buildings, we are not running from predators, but here's the kicker. We inherited that exact same biological hardware. So in our day-to-day modern lives, this default setting just causes us to ruthlessly scrutinize our environment and our coworkers. Instead of observing a benign situation and just learning from it, we make incredibly fast judgments to figure out if an email or even just a weird look is a life-threatening attack. So this quick judgment reflex, that's what we call a negativity bias. And please hear me on this one. It is an evolutionary feature. It is not a character flaw. You really don't need to feel guilty about it. Your brain is intentionally leaving out the good, safe, positive info because historically speaking, good things didn't threaten your life. You don't need to be hyper-aware of a beautiful sunset to survive the day. This negativity bias just means you aren't pausing to consider the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You are just zooming right in on the negative so you can stay safe. All right, section 2, the ego's need to be right, the psychological why behind defensiveness. Physical safety is great and all, but as humans, we also need emotional survival. We want to know, who am I and am I secure? Now, having an ego isn't just about being full of yourself. It's actually a completely necessary part of the human psyche that ensures you have a sense of place in the world. See, the ego inherently creates separation. It's the mechanism that essentially says, okay, here's where you end and here's where I start. We usually use the word ego as an insult, right? We assume it just means arrogance, but everyone has an ego, and it's a fundamental part of existing in a community. It is constantly working behind the scenes to help you survive psychologically, maintaining your individuality and fiercely protecting your worldview. But, here is the catch. The ego absolutely loves to be right in order to feel safe. Honestly, if the ego had a catchphrase, it would 100% be, I told you so. It craves certainty above almost anything else. To your ego, being right equals being secure. When things go exactly as you expect them to, your ego gets to kick back, cross its arms, and smugly say, yep, I told you so. I've got this all figured out. And that feeling of validation, that's exactly what keeps your psychological defense systems feeling unthreatened. Let's actually break down how this happens in real time. Say someone offers you a brand new perspective, something that deeply challenges a belief you already hold. Logically, you'd think you would just pause, take a breath, and calmly evaluate the new data, right? But nope. Instantly, your ego steps in and says, whoa, wait a second, and activates an actual physical fear response in your body. Because the ego needs to be right to feel safe, it treats this challenge to your belief like that literal predator hiding in the bushes. Subconsciously, without you even thinking about it, you violently reject this new information. You label it as dangerous or untrustworthy or just flat out wrong. And you do this entirely on autopilot, completely dismissing a chance to grow just to restore that immediate sense of safety. This mechanical, automatic rejection of contradictory info, that is confirmation bias in action. Just like your negativity bias keeps you physically safe by hunting for threats, your confirmation bias keeps you psychologically safe. It filters out absolutely anything that might force you to rethink who you are or how the world works. Your brain is literally lying to you by omission. It's actively pushing out contradicting truth and only letting in the specific pieces of information that pat your ego on the back. And we see this playing out subconsciously every single day. Think about it. Let's say your unchecked ego gets some constructive feedback on a project. It doesn't see an opportunity to get better at your job, it sees a major threat. Because accepting that feedback means admitting you aren't perfect right out of the gate. Or let's say you have this deep-seated belief that you are just terrible at technology. So when that mandatory software update inevitably crashes your computer, your brain instantly goes, "See, I knew it. I am just not cut out for this." It's confirming your core belief rather than just admitting that, hey, software updates are universally frustrating. Or what if you already feel undervalued at work and your boss praises a coworker? Your ego immediately chimes in with that trusty catchphrase, "I told you so. I am totally underappreciated here." These biases are traveling with us everywhere, operating completely beneath the surface, constantly coloring our reality. Okay, moving to section 3, changing your lenses, removing the guilt and gaining objectivity. Take a deep breath here, because these lenses aren't inherently bad or wrong. The problems only pop up when we don't realize that our truth isn't necessarily the truth. So, what do we actually do with this mental hardware? Well, the solution definitely isn't to beat yourself up about it. Understanding that you have a negativity bias and an ego driven by confirmation bias, that's not about casting blame on yourself. You didn't invent human biology. The goal here is just to step back, unpack these default settings, and start observing your own mind with genuine curiosity. By cultivating an objective mindset, you get to become a non-judgmental observer of your own feelings and actions. Next time you feel that hot, sudden flash of defensiveness, you can catch yourself right in the act and say, okay, that's just my survival lens kicking in. I'm actually perfectly safe. There's a famous saying that hits the nail right on the head. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. There is just so much beauty in realizing that your perception is fundamentally shaped by you. When you fully internalize this, honestly, everything changes. Your version of reality is exactly that, your version. It's deeply colored by your invisible lenses, your biological urge to survive, and your ego's relentless need to be right. Once you accept that you aren't seeing pure, unadulterated reality in every single interaction, a tremendous amount of pressure just lifts right off your shoulders. So, how do we practice this? By asking a few specific questions, you can actually actively shift these lenses. It brings about the kind of self-reflection that draws you closer not just to yourself, but to everybody around you. When you find yourself getting defensive or just instantly judging a situation, hit pause. Ask yourself, how can I understand the way another person sees things right now? Challenge your brain's automatic filtering system by asking, could my lens be over-focusing on just the negative parts of the story? And maybe most importantly, what is my lens leaving out entirely? Just getting curious about these questions completely interrupts that automatic fear response we talked about. So as you go about the rest of your day, I want to leave you with a final thought to really spark your curiosity. What beautiful realities are your invisible filters hiding from you right now? Think about it. If your brain is selectively lying to you just to keep you physically and psychologically safe, it might also be filtering out rich opportunities for connection, moments of profound personal growth, and entirely new ways of seeing your world. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. And remember, always check your lenses.